Welcome to the Shared Path. I'm Maggie Linton. Very excited about my next guest. Matthew Shell is a gifted and busy music producer, engineer, and multi instrument musician. His work spans many genres, covering jazz, rock, R&B, and soul. Matthew is also founder and CEO of his own publishing house and record label, MTS Music. The music heard at the beginning and end of my show is Juice from Matthew and Trey Ely's album Freedom. So very happy to see you again, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about you because you first of all, you got a brand new album out. Let's talk about My Ride or Die that you did with Kenny McNeil because that just came out last week.
Yep. So that's a two-song single. There's the extended version, which also features guitarist Sammy Turin and saxophonist Douglas Lira, and they make it a much more expanded and amazing version of the song. So even Kenny says the saxophone's his favorite part. So yeah, we were thinking we should have just released it as just the extended version instead of having a radio edit. But live and learn, and everyone's just loving the extended version so much. So I'm glad you liked it too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the extended version, and
Cool.
we should tell everybody you can go to YouTube and listen to it because that's one thing you really do share your music, and it's so
Thank
many
you.
different genres. People should just take the time and listen to all of your works because I think they'll be drawn in very quickly.
Thank you. And then, so that is accompanying the album which you mentioned, which is called "We'll Find a Way" to the Chill Afrobeat album. And basically, it's an album inspired by my heritage. My mom was born in South Africa and grew up 18 years in Zimbabwe, at the time Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. So she introduced me to not just classical music, but all sorts of different African vibes of music. Recently, I've been drawn to a lot of Nigerian Afrobeat and piano music. So there's some really cool stuff happening around the world, and why not be inspired by the percussion? And so this album, We'll Find a Way too, just has so much layered percussion. And then the other reason we added so much percussion is because I mixed it in surround sound. It's now called Dolby Atmos immersive audio. So if you have Apple AirPods and you listen on Apple Music, you'll hear the more surround sound version. Or if you have a Dolby Atmos system, the percussion just surrounds you. The strings are in the ceiling, the horns are in the ceiling, and different parts just are all around the room. So it makes for a very unique experience, like you're in the room with all the musicians. So yeah.
You put us there, right there
Yes,
with you.
right in
Yeah,
the middle.
that's the
Like
one
you're in the
thing.
middle of a circle with a bunch of people playing.
Yeah, circling the round. One of the things you mentioned was your mom, but um, a number of people will have a mom or a dad who may be a musician, but they don't go toward. But you were like a fly to the light, weren't you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Definitely.
My dad was in the Navy and here in America in the band that they had. My mom was a concert pianist and studied in London, England for 10 years or so. So they both came from musical backgrounds, but definitely made sure I had an eclectic understanding of not just Western music, but all sorts of music. Even flamenco is a big part of what I like, and as well as a lot of guitar-based music, Middle Eastern, and all sorts of vibes that don't have the usual, um, usual scales that we have here. So yeah,
Well, I consider your music for the world because, as you said, you've been influenced by so many different things and people, but your whole idea is to share it, not just say,
absolutely.
okay, only a couple people can listen to this. You really are one of those musicians who really goes around the world with everything. In fact, part of a Grammy Award winning album just this past year.
Yes, I had the honor to work with an artist from Japan named Masa Takumi on his album Sakura. I worked and included my guitar work on the song Kaze, and it was I was just so happy to see him win the Grammy for Best Global Music Album. And just seeing how happy he was really cool. And I was there in LA for the weekend, and we caught up at the after party. But I'm just very happy for him and honored to work with him.
How many instruments do you play? Because I know you do guitar, but I know there's piano in there too. So
Yeah.
tell me and our listeners, how many do you play?
So I lost count, but it's guitar and piano are my best instruments. I also play drums and bass, and then African instruments like djembe, African harps, rhythm instruments like that, and some Indian instruments. Um, but I love being able to just when I was young and in high school, my parents just introduced me to so many instruments and so many different musicians. So I was able to just pick things up quick. Like the piano I started playing since I was 3 years old, and guitar since middle school. So those two were the ones that I can flow on and without thinking. But all the other instruments I definitely enjoy as well, and it just makes for being a well-rounded producer, being able to not just do everything on the keyboard, but actually pick up a djembe and play that and get that percussion sound in there. It just makes the difference between that and just doing everything on a keyboard, you know?
Also, because you play so many instruments, sometimes you may be producing a song and you know just exactly what it needs. And then you can walk right over and do it, can't you?
Yep, yep. And I'm inspired by a lot of different musicians, like Quincy Jones, Pharrell Williams, people who um, use live musicians and also can play a lot themselves. Um, so I always want to give thanks to the people who came before me who inspired me as I went. So yeah.
Oh, do people come to you or do you do do you go and seek them or is it a combination of the two?
No, it's definitely referral. So I think that's why I work with so many independent artists. I'm just happy to work with people who come and find me or referred to me by other people, because that way you're getting the you're giving the best quality because they sought you out. They listened to my like let me change the wording. They sought me out, listened to my music, listened to the music I produced, and then were wanting to work with me versus me just reaching out to people who might not know me. That doesn't always lead to as much success, but it's important. It's an important part of it, and I definitely have a few clients. Um, but some of the best clients were ones who found me, and most of them are referrals. So, and that keeps me busy enough. I don't necessarily need to be working with all the celebrities. I work with good people who make good music, who sought me out, and it's been working and going well. So yeah,
But sometimes you do work with celebrities too, as we call it. It's
yeah.
not like you've been sitting in the corner uh, being undiscovered. You really are a busy man.
Oh yeah, I've been honored to work with a few really great people. Philip Lawrence from Bruno Mars team. I got in the studio with him. It was cool. He was working on the Rio 2 soundtrack, and he was in the Washington D.C. area, and he just looked up. I need a studio to work at while I'm here. The Fox needs this right now, and I can't go back to LA. I'm on tour, so he found the studio I was working at, and the owner said, "Hey Matt, I trust you. Can you cover the session?" I said, "I got it," and it was fun. And recording his vocals and giving him some of my pointers, like do a take where you just go wild and make noises and go crazy. And he tried it, and it was in the final record. And it was just cool to work collaboratively with someone on that level who had won like 13 Grammys already and doing really good things. And um, so yeah, that was a cool experience. I got to remix for Selena Gomez. I got to work with big people in the jazz world like Paul Jackson Jr., Gerald Albright, Jeff Lorber, all sorts of people. So, um, yeah, it's been cool. And Marcus Johnson, I just produced this year a 15-song album for him. So I'm staying busy. It's staying busy.
When did you know that it was time for you to do your own label and move into the true
Yeah.
production world where you could control things a lot more and offer people your best?
Well, I in 2006, I got my full-time job, and I said I'm not going to engineering school until I get a full-time job where it can cover the cost of the school because I don't want to be in debt. And so once I got that job, I went to Omega Studios. I learned what I needed to learn in their comprehensive program. It was great. And even while I was at school, an example of seeking out someone to work with, I set up a studio tour for me and my classmates with Marcus Johnson, and he was impressed that I took the initiative to do that. I asked for his card. I said, "Is there anything you're working on?" He said, "Yeah, actually, I have a 3 album project that I have a deadline and I need to get done. If you send me any beats, I might buy some from you." And so I sent him 3 different instrumentals, and he loved them and bought them, and had me come in to record him, and we've been working together ever since. So that album that I worked on was number 2 on Billboard. So I was still at school with an album that was number 2 on Billboard's jazz charts, and so all the students like, "How'd you do that?" I was like, "It was that studio tour that we went to, and I just sent him some stuff, and he liked it, and we kept working." Um, so around then, like he MJ actually showed me, you really got to get a LLC. Um, and then he gave me, like, he set me up on BMI, and because it's usually, he was very generous. He split the songs 50-50 with me as far as the publishing. And usually when you're up and coming producer, you don't get that big of a percentage, but he was very generous, and one of the songs became the biggest hit from the triple album, the song Latin Funk. It's still going till this day. So my royalty checks were already starting back then, and I still get royalties from that song. It's played on a lot of different jazz radio stations. So that's the biggest song I've ever worked on, actually, as far as BMI royalties. So, and I thank him for giving me 50% of it. Like, so many musicians aren't that generous, but he was very appreciative and very generous. So it worked out great.
You learned to give back too. I
Yeah.
haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, my philosophy with publishing is just split it evenly with everyone involved. So if there are 4 people, we each get the same amount. And I learned that at a BMI songwriter panel, and also from Marcus Johnson. But when you work with someone, you don't want to, even if you did more work, you don't want to say, "Well, I get a bigger percentage because I did more work." That just leads to disharmony down the line, and people getting frustrated. But ever since I took on the concept of just split it evenly with whoever's involved, everyone's been happy. There've been no issues, and it's been pretty smooth sailing. So yeah,
That's a lesson to learn too for a lot of people. It's
yeah,
not about what's happening now, but also you're paving your way for the future too. Because when people look at you, they will see a cooperative, sharing person who's not just looking out for themselves.
yep. And then I also saw examples where it didn't go so well. Like Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins later in his career talked about how he had the lion's share of the publishing because he wrote most of the songs, like 95% of the songs. So all the other musicians in the band were kind of considered work for hire, and they started to resent him. And the bass player left and never came back. And he said he wished he had approached it differently. Same with the band Queen. If you saw the movie Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yeah.
near the end they decide, okay, we're just going to split it evenly, no matter who's doing, because we're all part of why the songs are good. So I just think it's a good practice, and it goes against industry norms. Industry norms are like, you did this much, so you get this percent. And but I think for the sake of having good relations with everyone you work with, do it that way. Like Kenny McNeil on the album We'll Find a Way, we just split everything 50-50, and never said, "Oh, you'd worked a little more on this or I worked a little more on this." Just say, "Look, every song's 50-50." And he was very happy with that, and it's had 40,000 streams in like 2 months. So we just split any streaming revenue. It's not much. Spotify's payout isn't that much, but still, he's happy the fact that it's 50-50, and no matter what we do with that project, or my ride or die, it's always split in half, and yeah, just
Surely
works out that
Ride or
way.
Die is got to be moving up the charts too, though, because
Oh, that
I'm
one's doing
telling
pretty
you, I
good.
love it. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Y
Kenny McNeil did his thing vocally on that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he did. Um, I want to go back and talk to you about Juice because
Oh,
people
cool.
hear Juice coming and going, and you said, Maggie, find it, whatever you want. And I kept coming back to Juice. And you and I
Awesome.
were talking about Juice and how it was created, and it's just perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. Me and Trey Ely were in the studio and we were experimenting with synthesizers. And so I was just kind of improvising on the piano with different sounds. And I already had the drums arranged. So sometimes I'll arrange the drums on their own to give a spine to the song before the body's created, if that's a good visual analogy. But yeah, so I knew the song would be good because the drum. If you just listen to the drums on their own, you could tell. All right, this is the verse. This is the build up. This is the chorus. And so even with just percussion, it sounded good. So I was like, all right, this is gonna be great. And then added the synthesizers. Trey added his flute. We hired a bass player named Mr. Turner, who put an amazing bass guitar line on it. And then the singer named uh, GP Jackson came um, and just did an incredible job layering some harmonies over what Trey had done on flute. So it made for a really cool vibe, and I'm glad you like it. And then we made a music video for it with a b-boy dancer named Atomic Goofball, and that video was fun, and it was like an anti-bullying message. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was weird because it, Atomic Goofball came up with the concept, but he was the bully in the video, even though in reality he had been bullied growing up. But he said, I'll just be acting and I'll be the bully, and then all the kids will dance battle me and beat me. So I was like, okay, that's a cool idea. So
One of the things you also do is um, you're into education and
yes.
helping kids learn the ropes so they don't make mistakes as they go out. Talk about that because that's so important right now. We hear about the arts education, but you're doing the arts and the business side too.
Yes. So for 8 years at Omega Studios, after being a student there, I graduated, worked a bit, and then they invited me back to teach as adjunct faculty. So I taught about 16 classes per year, but um, it was a three-part series on music business. But I included professional development, just how to be professional in general, having a quality voicemail, not just going, "What's up?" Leave a message, just little basic things like that, and
That.
how important it is to have a good web presence, to incorporate visuals into your music that you share online, because so many people need visuals to listen to songs all the way. Sometimes it's just important to understand that, um, and just how to build your social media following. That was the biggest thing Omega wanted because they had seen I had built over 100,000 followers over Twitter and all these different platforms. So I just share that with the students, and that'll help them understand the business side, and also probably because of the following, it is how I've gotten a few clients. Like they'll see, wow, this music's doing well. I want to work with someone who's established and doing well so they can do well too. And so even with clients, I'll educate them on some steps to take once your music's released so it doesn't just sit there. You know, some of the I'll give away some of the biggest strategies for getting your music to be heard by new listeners. Is one, um, make sure a few songs are available for free. Don't just put it out behind a wall where no one can hear it. That's a lot easier now because Spotify, anyone can listen to anything. But back in the day, it was a little less clear to do that. Um, I would say have collaborations. Not everything needs it to be have collaborations, but when you collaborate with a artist who's bigger than you and they're on board to share it and everything, now you're exposed to their audience, and then their fans can potentially become fans of you. So that's a big thing. Another thing is performing live and figuring out ways to share your music and get out there. And then one more way is to engage fans with video blogs, like um, get out there and talk about your process, talk about um, ways that you're creating your music. And it's not, I have to be honest, it's not something I do as much, but I've seen other people do it. And one artist I work with named Tyler Ward said once he started doing that, he just really started to blow up because fans felt really connected and invested in what he was doing. Um, and there are many more tips. Another thing is always, if an opportunity is given, vet it immediately. Like don't sit on it because it could go to someone else. Like you don't have to take every opportunity, but at least if you see it, evaluate it, see if it's worthwhile. And especially film placements, even if it's not paid, I always take film placements and let my music be used because it's like getting your song on the radio. If it's in a film that gets seen by lots of people, now your music's out there. So I've had my music in 10 films now, and that's been a really cool way it's spread. So just those are some examples of things I teach people, um and much
Considering how
more.
many
So
genres you cover, I can
oh yeah,
understand why
yeah,
you've been in 10 different films because it's um it's one of those blessings that comes to you because of the quality and the inexclusiveness of your work. You really do
yeah,
try and get a little bit of everything.
yeah. Like one director, Sultan Shaw, he prefers just the piano instrumentals. He said he really likes jazz and piano and simple arrangements because it works for his films. And then hold on, another director, Jason Boston, he wanted the more layered songs that have vocals. Pardon me. We made it this far without any
We
cough.
made it this far. That must mean it's just about time to close out. What do you think?
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, no,
Okay.
it different directors want different things, but that's why it's good to have
Mhm.
variety.
Yeah. The one thing I have to say about you too, because I used to have you on my show, on Sirius Show, is there's a calm about you, and you are inviting in spirit as well as being able to give and to listen, and that is so important for music moving ahead. It's all about, like as you keep saying, working together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I and being a music producer and vocal engineer, a lot of it's about being a therapist almost because it's a very vulnerable situation for the singer or the musicians who are in the studio. The pressure's on, so sometimes nerves get to them, and the more calm you are and reassuring that no, this is going to work out, the better chance it will work out and things will go well. And people say, I've never done so well in the studio. I don't know what it was, and I got to
You
keep working with you, you know. And I'm like, well, I just try to make it inviting and a place for the most amount of creativity.
listen, I know you're starting to cough. we're gonna we're gonna wrap it up. But are
Hey,
there
we made it this
any
far though.
yeah, is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners? You have shared so
Uh,
much.
yeah. I just thank God. I thank my family, um, my daughter, my parents, my wife. I just thank everyone who's in my life and my business partner, Kenny McNeil. And it's important to stay loyal to the people who stay loyal to you. Me and Kenny been working together since 2010, so 13 years. So maybe 2000, yeah, 20 around 2009, 2010, around there. So build relationships. When you find good people, work with them. You don't have to work with everybody. If you can find a few good people, just nurture those relationships, work hard, and then also a big thing I talk about in my class is what does success mean to you? Figure that out before you dive headfirst into the music industry because success to me, for instance, is being able to provide for my family, being able to enjoy what I'm doing. And so having those two things as the foundation will keep me from working with a wild artist that has nothing to do with my vision, or someone who could be troublesome. If someone's just really difficult to work with, I'll say, hey, I got someone else I think you should work with. It's not going to work with me. because I'd rather have my sanity, than have to deal with a pain in the butt. So, um, yeah. So, but someone else might say, I'm gonna get to the top at any cost. I'll work with whoever, and that could work for them to work with the most difficult, but more famous people or whatever. So, yeah, the more famous someone is, usually the more tricky it is to work with them. And the funny thing is, sometimes the more famous people don't pay. I have one friend. I won't say which artist he worked with, but he produced his whole album, and he was only going to get paid 4,000 to produce this major artist album, and then the guy ran with it, didn't even credit the guy as the producer, and didn't pay him. So he didn't even get credits or the payment, and then that guy put out the album, and it became a big hit, and his name's nowhere, and he didn't get paid. I'm just like, see, that's why I got to work with sensible people. You don't want to work with these ego driven people who say, oh, aren't you just happy you got to work with me? You're like, no, I want to, I have to feed my family. So
Good. That's it. Hey, listen, thank you for leaving us with words of wisdom. And
right
you
on.
know I love you, and
Love you
I'm
too.
so happy for your success. And I'm going to keep giving my program juice thanks to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Listen, many thanks to my friend Matthew Shell. For more on his very busy musical journey, visit his website, mtsmusic.net. Once again, that's mtsmusic.net. And check out he and Kenny McNeil's new release, My Ride or Die, plus other albums, all on YouTube. Until next time, seek peace and spread lots of love. I'm Maggie Linton.